was something, it says, the disciplic succession, and they had never seen that. That were coming in a whole line, going back to Krishna, Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, next in that list. Madhva. But what a gap. Vyasa was 5,000 years ago, but then to go to Madhva, you got to fast forward to like 1100 something AD or CE, as they say. So, because it's a prominent shiksha line, it's not a diksha. Okay. Following Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in his purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.18, Srila Prabhupada writes, quote, there are two types of Bhagavats, namely the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. Unquote. And in his commentary to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.31, Prabhupada highlights that devotee Bhagavat, or Acharya, whose pure example embodies the book. This lecture was just, he was a walking Bhagavatam. Everything he did exemplified Founder Acharya principles, seeds. So we're going to look at 4 seeds of that Founder Acharya principle in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. To Bengal on the first Gaudiya Vaishnava book distribution party. That's a whole drama, if you remember that, what happened to that party. The Goswami Sabha, dedicated to articulating, preserving, and distributing the Lord's teachings, planted the Founder Acharya principles organizational seed. So you think of that phrase, Founder Acharya. It's like, it's a compound. And the first part of the compound is English, and the second part is Sanskrit. And there's organizational suggestion. Founder means somebody who found something. So the Goswamis started a sangha, if you will. Like this is a sangha. This is somebody organized this. It didn't happen by chance, right? A lot of planning goes into this. So the 6 Goswamis, they started this Vishva Vaishnav Raj Sabha. That's like the original name of the Hare Krishna movement in the Gaudiya line. Okay, so that's the first seed. And then, anybody know who that is? No? Rupa Goswami. Yeah. All right, Mataji.
A philosophical seed. You can't see it from here. In 1552, Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu identified the 4th principle of devotional service as Sadhu Vratamanu Rathanam, which Srila Prabhupada later translated in the Nectar of Devotion as following in the footsteps of great acharyas or teachers under the direction of the spiritual master.
Yeah. So, and earlier on page 21 of the Nectar of Devotion's introduction, Srila Prabhupada writes, in our mental activities, we should always try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please him, following in the footsteps of the great acharyas and the personal spiritual master. So the philosophical seed is that there's a difference between regular gurus and great acharyas. There's a oneness and there's a difference. And there's always a oneness and a difference. Are you all right, Prabhu?
I'm okay.
Yeah? He's a yogi. You like? Okay, good.
Bhakti yogi.
Bhakti yogi, good. In lesson 1, we learned that, quote, initiating and instructing spiritual masters are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna, although they have different dealings, unquote. In ISKCON, for example, initiating and instructing spiritual masters may deal with their disciples differently, as parents and relatives do. As a child may see his parents and relatives as everything at first, then with their help matures to see them in perspective. So a disciple may initially see his initiating and instructing spiritual masters as everything, then with their guidance matures to appreciate them in relation to the great acharyas. You know, it's natural when a kid is 2, 3, 4 years old, he thinks his parents are like God, you know, because he's totally dependent on them. But then as he matures and as they, with the help of teachers, educate the child, they see, oh, there's more, there's other people too. And we'll devote a whole lesson to that. Parents, teachers, gurus. Yeah, you'll see about that later. To help us understand this philosophical seed of the founder Acharya principle, we will now hear how the Acharya Sampradaya culture, the line of prominent Shiksha exemplars who make up our disciplic succession, inspired one famous disciple to beg his great guru to bring him closer to their foundational Acharya. So now this is a story, it's probably well known to you, but Bhakti True Maharaj, when he was still with us, he reminded me that this could be a cultural seed for your seminar, Suresvara. The story of Narottam Das Thakur and Lokanath Goswami. It's a very touching story. Okay, so that's the cultural seed. Next. And that's supposed
A cultural seed.
Let me just say. So that's supposed to depict Narottam on the left, and Rupa in the middle, and Lokanath on the right. So you have disciple, great acharya, and guru in that order. So, okay. Let's see if there's any more on that. Oh, okay. Before the Gaudiya Vaishnava saint, Srila Narottam Das Thakur, was born, Lord Chaitanya told Lokanath Goswami, quote, "Within a short time, a prince named Narottam will become your disciple. He will be a gifted devotee, full of love and devotion, and empowered to save the fallen conditioned souls from hellish life. His enchanting, beautiful kirtan will melt even wood or stone." Close quote. That's from the Narottam Vilas. After the Lord left this world, however, Sri Lokanath was so distraught that he withdrew from public view and vowed never to accept disciples. He just wanted to do Nirjan Bhajan and then just retire and, serve in separation. Although Mahaprabhu had already told him, somebody's going to appear and he's going to be your disciple. So that's coming up. Nevertheless, later in Vrindavan, when Sri Jiva noticed that Narottam was drawn to the saintly Lokanath, Sri Jiva told Narottam to approach Lokanath for initiation, although everybody knew that Lokanath had made that vow, he wasn't going to accept disciples. But Jiva said to Narottam, "Look, I can see your heart is with Lokanath, so you approach him for initiation." But as ardently as Narottam approached Lokanath, just as adamantly Lokanath refused. Resolved nonetheless, Narottam, the son of a king, vowed to become Lokanath's menial servant and took to cleansing the area where the saint performed his early morning ablutions. Yes, please, cell phones off. Thanks. Yeah, Narottam, he was a royal, as they say now. He was of royalty. But he knew that because he had that royal birth, that what comes with that? A lot of privilege and a lot of pride. So he was very advanced also spiritually. So he wanted to get rid of that false pride, that royal pride, and just do something menial, even though for Lokanath, even though Lokanath said, "No, I'm not accepting disciples." So absorbed was he took to cleansing the area. He knew when Lokanath rose. He knew when he went to the stream, to evacuate and bathe, and so he just made everything nice, the earth and the water, and Yeah. So absorbed was Lokanath in his solitary Krishna bhajan that he scarcely noticed someone was daily cleansing his ablution area. Finally, after an entire year had passed, Lokanath decided to find out who was so conscientiously cleaning up after him. The next morning, he came earlier than usual, so he decided to play a trick on whoever was doing it, and he came earlier, before Narottam got there. He came earlier than usual and hid behind a tree. This is what it says in the Narottam Vilas. When Narottam approached, Lokanath saw who it was. Narottam, it's you! He wasn't happy, because he had already told him, I'm not accepting disciples. His identity exposed, Narottam fell at the saint's feet and begged to be accepted as his disciple. Lokanath refused at first, then later relented, remembering Mahaprabhu's prediction and conquered by the pure devotion of saintly Narottam. So he became Lokanath's, so to speak, only child, only disciple. Come on in, Manaji. Have a seat. So, now here's where the dramatic cultural seed comes in. Although Srila Narottam Das Thakur became the only initiated disciple of Srila Lokanath Goswami, in Song 17, verse 4 of his famous song collection, Prarthana, we sing Prarthana songs every day. We just sang one. Sri Guru Charana Padma. That's Prarthana. Gurudev is also in Prarthana. I forget. In Mayapur they sing Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karamo. That's Prarthana. And who else? Or what else? I know there's more Prarthana we sing, I think. Oh, whenever someone disappears. Jai Anilo Premadhana. That's Prarthana. Yeah. So in Song 17, verse 4 of his famous song collection, Prarthana, Narottam longs for Lokanath to bring him to their ultimate shelter in the disciplic succession, Srila Rupa Goswami. Because when Rupa Goswami wrote that Bhakti Rasamrita, he was recognized as the chief, even though he wasn't the oldest or the most renounced, but he was the most expert at relishing the mellows of bhakti. So let's look at the key lines in the song. Can you sing in Bengali? Any Bengalis in the house? Are you Bengali, bro? Okay.
I don't know the meter though.
Okay, Bengali? Okay, we got a This is... Right. We got the real bhav there. Bengali bhav. Now what does that mean? Quote, when will my... is that in there? Yeah. Go ahead, read that.
When will my Lord and Master Lokanath Goswami take me with him and place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami?
Prabhu Lokanath, when will my Prabhu, my Lord and Master, take me with him and place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami? He's begging his Diksha Guru to place him at the lotus feet of the founder Acharya of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Wow. Yes. In his commentary to Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 5, text 203, Prabhupada writes, quote, Srila Rupa Goswami is described as the Bhakti Rasacharya. So the phrase founder Acharya, English wasn't even Bengal yet, because the British hadn't come and ruined everything yet. But he was called the Bhakti Rasacharya, or one who knows the essence of devotional service. His famous book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is the science of devotional service. And by reading this book, one can understand the meaning of devotional service, unquote. That's from Prabhupada's purport to that verse. So he was the chief. As, quote, the chief of the 6 Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami was Narottam and Lokanath's Bhakti Rasacharya, the master most expert at relishing the moods of pure devotional service to Lord Krishna. And as Narottam's Diksha Guru, Sri Lokanath had the pleasure and privilege of bringing his disciple closer to Sri Rupa, the leader of the 6 Goswamis, Sabha, and the foundational spiritual master of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So just think of ISKCON today. That's one of the main duties of initiating and instructing spiritual masters in ISKCON, is to bring their disciples closer to Prabhupada, closer to the founder Acharya. That's what it means to be an authentic Shiksha and Diksha Guru in ISKCON. Someone who enhances, enriches, and deepens our relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And it's, as Bhakti True Maharaj pointed out to me, it started right here, right in the time just after Mahaprabhu left. Although, quote, Rasacharya may sound similar to Founder Acharya, by Lord Chaitanya's inscrutable will, the organizational, philosophical, and cultural seeds sown early for, quote, Founder Acharya would have to wait another 3 centuries within a crucible, a pressure cooker, a crucible of disgrace before final seeds arrived to conclusively establish the Founder Acharya principle. Because within 100 years after Mahaprabhu disappeared, what happened to the Gaudiya Sampradaya? It became infested with so many imitation. Bhaktivinoda Thakur identified later 13 Upasampradayas. Owls, Bowls, Saki Bekis, Gauranga Nagaris, Prakrita Sahajas, just, yeah. It became just to the point where no self-respecting Bengali person in Bengal would even touch the Gaudiya Sampradaya. It became totally corrupted. This is Kali Yuga, right? All right. So we had to wait 300 years until Bhaktivinoda Thakur came. All right, and he gave the crowning seeds to the Founder Acharya principle. Here we go. There's the Thakur in his, looks like his chief magistrate garb, right? Let's see. Nope. Too early. In the late 19th century, the great Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharya Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur identified and exposed more than a dozen counterfeit Gaudiya Vaishnava groups who, after Lord Chaitanya's departure, so disgraced Gaudiya Vaishnavism that most educated and cultured persons shunned and dismissed the cult. It became a cult. Like sometimes people accuse us, or they used to, not so much now, but they used to accuse us of being cult members in the 60s and 70s. Not only did Srila Bhaktivinoda restore Mahaprabhu's original teachings, as well as the glories of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, he also conceived of a mission to propagate Krishna consciousness globally, thus helping to fulfill a 16th century scriptural prophecy. Quote, in every town and village, the chanting of my name will be heard. Where did that appear? Anybody know? Where did that appear? What? Chaitanya Bhagavat. Yeah. Okay. Now in the 1880s, so fast forward hundreds of years, when reports reached Srila Bhaktivinoda of a rising Western interest in classical Indian culture, the Thakur sent a copy of his Sanskrit work, Sri Krishna Samhita, to the American transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Thakur was really, he was in touch with trends. So he heard that Emerson and Thoreau and American transcendental were interested in Vedic culture. You know, right on the back of the Gitas we distributed, we have quotes from those people, right? Emerson, so Emerson got a copy from the Thakur. This is the original. He's the original bridge preacher. He was bridging the gap between, you know, classical Indian culture and Western culture. So he sent a copy to Ralph Waldo Emerson, famous American poet and essayist and philosopher. Emerson gratefully acknowledged receiving the book, but confessed his inability to read Sanskrit. He didn't know Sanskrit. Bhaktivinoda thought he knew Sanskrit. He assumed that because they're interested in Gita, that they must know Sanskrit, but they didn't know Sanskrit. They were just reading these, you know, these bogus English translations. You know, Sir William Jones and all these people they had contests to see who could debunk Vedic culture. They were such rascals, right? But he told the Thakur, he wrote him a letter. He said, I don't know Sanskrit. That inspired the Thakur to write a longer work presenting Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and teachings, including a 47-page introduction in English titled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts, famous, which he sent to where? Somewhere in Canada. McGill. And he also sent it to Oxford. He sent it to, when I was presenting in Australia, the devotees in Canberra, the capital, said, I'll show you the university where Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book is. Yeah, okay. In 1896, the year of Srila Prabhupada's birth, Srila Bhaktivinoda sent that book to various Western universities. But it was a Bengali work by the Thakur. He wrote in Bengali, Sanskrit. You got to give this poor fellow an alternative. You got to give him a soccer ball or something. Yeah, seminars are boring, you know, for kids. All right. We're going to serve prasad later, don't worry.
Prabhu, please excuse us. I'm taking the small kids for class.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for doing that. All right. In 1896, the year of Srila Prabhupada's birth, Srila Bhaktivinoda sent that book to various Western universities. But it was a Bengali work by the Thakur. He wrote in Bengali, Sanskrit, English, and Hindi, I think, too. Or maybe Oriya, I forget. But it was a Bengali work by the Thakur, published in 1900 as Harinam Chintamani, yes, that contained the crowning literary seeds for the Founderacharya principle. Yeah, it must have been one of the last books he wrote. It was 1900. And he only lived to 1914. So anyway, it was quite a book. In Harinama Chintamani, Srila Bhaktivinoda describes three kinds of great gurus in a disciplic tradition. The first is the Sampradayera Adiguru, the primeval guru of the tradition, directly enlightened by the Lord himself. The second are the Shikshaguru Pratishtita, greatly revered preceptors who keep the tradition's teachings intact over long spans of time. But when the Thakur identified the third guru, he described him in the superlative. So here's the literary seed. Prabhu, want to read that?
Literary seeds. However, the Adyacharya, or original guru of a disciplical line, is appropriately worshipped and respected as the Guru Shiromani, the topmost crown jewel of the spiritual masters. His perfect philosophical conclusions are to be followed by all in his succession. Any contrary instructions will not be accepted.
Yes, close quote. The stage was set for the Founderacharya seeds to bear fruit. And that translation was by Banu Maharaj from the Bengali. Now, so once the Thakur published that, the stage was set for the founder Acharya seeds who bear fruit, because nobody had ever heard of that English Sanskrit compound before, but now it's about to bear fruit. The seeds bear fruit. In the 1880s, while envisioning a worldwide Krishna consciousness movement, Srila Bhaktivinoda revived the Vaishnav Raj Sabha that the Goswamis had started, and launched a Bengali spiritual journal, Sajjana Toshini, which means for the satisfaction of the devotees. And there it is. And that's the, that's the harmonist. That's the English language version that Srila Bhaktivinoda. Okay, so 4 decades later, Srila Bhaktivinoda's illustrious son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, reimagined the Sabha as the Gaudiya mission. So it was the Thakur that envisioned the whole thing. I mean, the Thakur, because it had predicted it would go to every town and village, Priti Vitayachayata Nagarari Gram, as Mataji said. But it wasn't happening because of all the upasampradayas that stalled everything for hundreds of years. So the Thakur, he wanted to get that going. Okay, let's go to every town and village. But to do that, we've got to have a whole movement. This is not the work, the mission of one guru. We got to have a whole worldwide, as Prabhupada said, he was the pioneer of the Krishna consciousness movement in the modern age. So he envisioned a worldwide network of gurus. He even conceived of the GBC. Because, do you know where that came from, the GBC, where he got the idea? From the British Indian Railways, they had a GBC, a governing body commission. So the Thakur thought, well, that's what we need a governing body to manage all these areas, we say zones now, and to make sure the gurus keep them in line, You got to have a management. So, but he knew his time was running out, so he famously, as you know, prayed for a ray of Vishnu to help him manifest this vision, and he got one of his sons, Bimal Prasad Dutt, became Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And so he took his father's vision and he manifested it in something practical, the Gaudiya mission, and transformed his father's journal, the Sajjana Toshini, into the Harmonist, an English language periodical with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's scholarly disciple, Professor Nishikant Sanyal, as his co-editor. And why did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta decide he had to publish in English? Because English was becoming the rising star, it was becoming the dominant language in the world, because of the British Empire, basically. So Bhaktisiddhanta was always wanting his educated disciples to learn how to preach in English. Timed to coincide with the launch of the mission's brand new Calcutta headquarters, the October 1930 Harmonist carried the first of a 3-part series by Professor Sanyal about the, quote, Gaudiya Mat, as Prabhupada would say, Gaudiya Mat. It was in this article that the founder Acharya phrase, seeded for centuries, finally fructified. So here's where we see the phrase, manifest. And Prabhu's going to read. You got it? Okay, here it is. It's a little difficult English because it's complicated syntax, but I think you'll get the gist of it. Go ahead.
The Gaudiya Mat is also identical with its founder Acharya.
Notice 2 Y's.
Acharya. The associates, followers, and abode of his divine grace are limbs of himself. None of them claim to be anything but a fully subordinate limb of this single individual. This unconditional, causeless, spontaneous submission to the head is found to be not only compatible with, but absolutely for the fullest freedom of initiative of the subordinate limbs.
Yeah, this is Professor Sanyal describing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as the founder Acharya of the Gaudiya Math. And it's similar to things Prabhupada would say later about ISKCON, that ISKCON is my body, right? And he's the founder. You are all the limbs of my body, he would say to us. And the BBT is my heart. It's a similar kind of metaphor. Okay. During the Gaudiya Mission's finest hour, the first Vaishnav preaching expedition to Europe in the 1930s, Bhaktisiddhanta dispatched a few preachers to England and Germany. So he was trying to manifest his father's vision to take it outside of India, that it was locked in the Sanskrit culture, for years. You got to get this prophecy going, take it all over the world, preach in English. During the Gaudiya Mission's finest hour, the first Vaishnav preaching expedition to Europe in the 1930s, the book Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's leading preachers took with them was Sri Krishna Chaitanya, written by Professor Nishikant Sanyal and edited by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. The work was written with sufficient breadth, depth, and excellence to impress the intelligentsia of the West. In its front matter, the elaborate table of contents highlighted the intimate connection between the Adi Gurus, the original founders of the different sampradayas, the primeval preceptors of the four Vaishnav sampradayas, and the sampradaya's four founder acharyas who revitalized their disciplic successions in the Kali Yuga within recorded history. Here's how that translates visually. So that was a whole bunch of words I just said, but it's easier to understand when you just see this. So, how important are founder acharyas to all the... Okay, here we go. So there it is. See, there's Rudra, the Rudra Sampradaya, Lord Shiva. And in the Kali Yuga, Vishnu Swami revitalized it. And then you see the four Kumaras, the Kumara Sampradaya, and then Nimbarka revitalized it in the Kali Yuga. And then Lakshmi, Sri Sampradaya revitalized by Ramanuja, Brahma, and then Madhva. We're in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya. We're in a special aspect of that Sampradaya, Mahaprabhu. So, how important are founder acharyas to all those who follow them? Let's take a look. Ramanuja, Madhva. Okay, want to read that?
Founder acharyas provide the core identity and foundational relationship for everyone in their disciplic lines. Srila Ramanujacharya and Srila Madhavacharya are outstanding examples of the preeminent position of the founder acharya in the Guru Parampara.
Like even today, even though Ramanuja appeared in 1017, they just celebrated the millennial in 2017, right? If you happen to meet a serious Ramanuji today, and he happens to know English, and he also speaks Tamil, and you ask him, Prabhu, who are you? Adiyan, Ramanuja Dasan. I am your servant, a servant of Ramanuja. But Ramanuja appeared 1,000 years ago, but he's identifying with Ramanuja. And all the Shiksha and Diksha gurus that have come and gone since then, their job is to enhance, enrich, and deepen their disciples' relationship with Ramanuja. Help them understand his books, worship his Murti, execute his Vishishta Dvaita mission. Sound familiar? Whose books do we read every day? Prabhupada. Whose Murti do we worship?
Prabhupada.
Whose mission do we execute? Prabhupada. Same idea. So we should take note of that. How is this kind going to stay together for 10,000 years when we all identify as Prabhupada Anugas? And we love our Shiksha and Diksha gurus because they enhance, enrich, and deepen our relationship with our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Since the Gaudiya Mat was but an extension of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta knew many would consider him presumptuous, proud, if he personally announced himself as the Mutt's founder Acharya. He didn't do that. If people asked him who he was, he didn't say, I'm the founder Acharya. Because they would think that he's putting himself on the same level as, Vishnu Swami and Nimbarka and Ramanuja and Madhva. So he knew that people would criticize, right? So he didn't do that. And plus, you're going to see, we presented lesson 4. He could see, because he was a ray of Vishnu, he could see what was going to happen to his own organization, the Gaudiya Mat. It imploded, 6 years after the 1930 Harmonist article was published. The Gaudiya Mat finished after he disappeared, and they disobeyed his instructions, and the whole thing fragmented. Yeah. Okay, for the written record, however, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did allow himself to be referred to, by his scholarly disciple, Nishikant Sanyal, as the Gaudiya Mission's, quote, founder Acharya, within the pages of the Harmonist, very discreetly placed there. Okay, so there we go. Now, in lesson 4 of this series, that's 2 more lessons. They're all going to be published on the, or posted on the ISKCON Toronto website as they give them. So even though we're only doing 1 here, if you're interested to see more, just go onto the website, and as we do them, you'll be able to follow along the whole progression. Or you can pick up what happened last night in Burlington too. We did lesson 1 there. In lesson 4 of this series, we'll see why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would later leave this world and his founder Acharya title behind. He foresaw what would soon befall his own institution, as well as the one disciple. He knew what was going to happen to his institution, but he could also see that there was going to be one disciple who would be ready, willing, and able to revive the Gaudiya Sampradaya as the founder Acharya of a fresh branch of Lord Chaitanya's mission, far, far away from Mother India. Guess who that was? Right. So, now we're going to do Q&A now. Oh, okay. We got a lot of time, actually. And so, but before we hear your questions and comments and reflections and doubts and, as I told the devotees last night, when I give these, when I read my script, I deliberately don't say everything. I kind of provoke people so that they'll want to ask, what do you mean by that? And how do you know that? But we can document everything. So let's review so before I take your questions, let's review the main learning outcomes for this second lesson, the Founder Acharya Principles. So Prabhu, you can...
Lesson 2, the Founder Acharya Principle, Learning Outcomes. By now, we should be able to explain how our disciplic succession is a line of Bhagavad instructors.
Right. It's not a line of initiators and initiated. It's a line of instructors and instructed.
Identify the organizational seed of the Founder Acharya Principle.
Yeah, we should know who started organizing.
Identify the philosophical seed of the Founder Acharya Principle. Identify the cultural seed of the Founder Acharya Principle. And identify literary seeds of the Founder Acharya Principle. Recall how the Founder Acharya phrase appeared in the 1930s. Identify the foundational role of the Founder Acharya in the Vaishnava Sampradayas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as I mentioned last night, when I ask for questions, there's a tendency, a very human, natural tendency, to want to ask about anything and everything in creation. That's what happens. But I just put these up there to give you a reference point. Try to frame your questions and your comments in terms of these learning outcomes. Let's focus on what we just heard. Okay, thank you very much. And now, Q&A. This is where the fun starts, right? Uh-huh. Wait a minute, the fun hasn't even started yet. Why are you clapping? Well, I thought you were going to ask a question.
No, I was just holding the mic.
Oh, he's the runner. Yes, Marty.
My question is in regards to second point, third point. It's just one question, but it's covering few second, third, and fourth. So how?
Second, third, and fourth means, in here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Organizational seed, philosophical seed,
Okay, the
cultural
seeds,
seed,
yeah.
literary seed.
Right.
How can we protect a newcomer? Sometimes it just so happens that they may get not persuaded, but inspired and influenced by a certain group of disciples. And not necessarily they have that relationship, but it's just hyped up at that time. And they do get interested to aspire. Not necessarily they have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada, but they feel that they have a relationship with this disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Mm-hmm. And somewhere this, a little bit of guru groupism is also evident. So just as temple leaders or in general as mentors or just, congregation devotee, how can we protect a newcomer from not falling into this?
Yes. Well, in a perfect world, or in a perfect ISKCON, let's say, if I were, when I joined the Hare Krishna movement when I was 23 years old, 55 years ago, you do the math. Oh my God, what happened? I didn't die, that's what happened. Here I am, 78 years old. Yet, we're all in the queue, right? Well, when I walked in the door, there was only one guru in ISKCON, Prabhupada. Very simple. But we didn't know that he wasn't only a guru, he was a founder Acharya. But we'd heard the phrase, because he gave it to us. In 1970, when he created the GBC, he created this thing called Directions of Management, where he identified himself as the founder Acharya and the GBC as his management body of ISKCON. It was very simple, because Prabhupada was the only guru. But we didn't know really how great he was, even though, in one way we did. Compared to all the other gurus, swamis, and yogis, around, who were traipsing around the West, starting movements, and we knew that they were nothing compared to Prabhupada. But it's kind of like, one of my godbrothers gave an example once, like if you're on the top of Mount Everest in the Himalayas, in Nepal, and it's high, it's almost 30,000 feet up. But then when you descend and then you go a little distance from the mountain and you see how big that mountain is in relation to all the other mountains, you're like, whoa, that's not just a mountain. That what is Krishna says of mountains? I'm the Himalayas, right? He's right in the Gita. Stavaranam Himalayaha. Oh, of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Yeah. Of mountains, I am Meru. Yeah, Meru Shikarinam Aham. So as we get further and further away in time from Prabhupada's time with us, he passed in 77, that's 48 years ago now, coming up to the 50th anniversary of his disappearance. We're just saying, whoa, Prabhupada did what not only no guru ever did, like Prabhupada's, on Prabhupada's disappearance day, Mataji was there. Bhishmaka Mataji was there in Vrindavan. Were you in the room? Yes, when Prabhupada left. Right. So, and then after he left, I mean, it was, of course, everybody was devastated, totally devastated. We just couldn't imagine Prabhupada leaving. And of course, he didn't leave. He left his Vani. He's still present. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. That's how Prabhupada dedicates the Bhagavatam, first canto, to his Guru Maharaj. So, but one godbrother who you may know, Ayodhyapati, became Bhakti Bringer Govinda Maharaj, B.B. Govinda. Right. He spent a lot of time in Canada. Did he come recently?
Yes.
Yeah. To Toronto?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, for the, yeah. Okay. So he tells this amazing story that, because Prabhupada passed 7:24 p.m. IST, on November 14th, 1977. And then they took Maharaj's, Prabhupada's body in procession. He had asked Narayan Maharaj to help with the ceremony, the Tirobhav, putting the sacred form, in the earth. And then the next morning, there's Ayodhyapati Prabhu. That was his name before he took sannyas. He was exhausted and he was devastated in a daze. And then out of the, and so all of a sudden he sees this Vaishnav coming toward him, and it's one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji. Babaji Maharaj, who was famous when the devotees know him for just walking around. He would play a drum all day. And whatever question they asked Babaji Maharaj, he would laugh and he would say, Hare Krishna, and he'd hit the drum. That was his answer for every question. And so that's what Ayodhyapati had never even really heard him talk, because he was just always having kirtan and just very simple Babaji. But he just came up he saw that Ayodhyapati was devastated. And so he came up to him and he said, in perfect English, by the way. He didn't even know he spoke English. Did you know that your spiritual master is the greatest spiritual master who ever lived? Did you know that? So Ayodhyapati is like, he's stunned that he's speaking in English to him, and he's stunned by what he's saying. Here's a Diksha disciple of Araya Vishnu, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, telling Ayodhyapati that our Prabhupada was the greatest spiritual master who ever lived. And then he saw Ayodhyapati couldn't speak. So he said, I think he might have just shook his head, And so Babaji Maharaj said, do you know why? Do you know why he's the greatest spiritual master who ever lived? Because he spread Harinam, the length and breadth of this entire earth. That's why. So it's just a matter, when somebody walks in the door, confirmed. We have AI confirmation or whatever. When somebody walks in the door, if they're fortunate, if the devotees, if the leaders, especially in the temple, are Prabhupada conscious, they will introduce first they will introduce the newcomer to Prabhupada, the founder, Acarya, who provides everyone's core identity and foundational relationship. And then once they get to know Prabhupada, one good way to do it is to read the Lilamrita. That's one good way. And the other is to associate with people who, again, are very Prabhupada focused. And then, once they know their identity as a Prabhupada Nuga, then they can begin to look around and see who is offering the seva of Shiksha and Diksha, and select people who can enrich, enhance, and deepen that foundational identity. It's the other way you described is backwards. First they start looking around for people who are still, physically on the planet. No. First you got to get to know Prabhupada. That's the inoculation against the disease of jumping over the founder, jumping over to present gurus. Yeah. Is that all right? Okay. Mike. Talk to Mike.
Sorry.
Hey, Mike.
You want to remove this or you want to keep it? You want to keep it?
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu.
Obeisances.
We are so fortunate to be listening from the disciple of Srila Prabhupada about Srila Prabhupada. So I would like to have one more wonderful round of applause for Prabhu.
Thank you for giving me an opening to make a point.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Prabhupada is not, as I told the devotees in Burlington, he's not for the 4,780 people that he initiated. He's not, you can't limit. Don't think of Prabhupada as an initiating guru. He did initiate, of course. He had to start the ball rolling. He wasn't going to be physically around for 10,000 years. So, but if everybody is, like I have the same identity as you do, and here's what I mean. Even though I am initiated by Srila Prabhupada, on Saturday, July 17th, 1971 in Detroit, Michigan, 54 years ago plus, I have the same identity as you because really my identity is not so much that I'm his Diksha disciple, it's that I'm his Shiksha follower. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. That is available to any generation of devotee in ISKCON. So just know that. And that's how ISKCON is going to stay together. Because the tendency is, as Mataji used the phrase, guru groupism, the tendency is to fragment. And my guru is the best guru, and my guru is cuter than your guru. My guru is richer than your guru. My guru has more disciples than your guru. That's crazy. If we're going to stress anybody, we should stress the founder Acharya. And then if you stress the founder Acharya, as they say in English, the rising tide floats all boats. So if you stress the founder Acharya, then everybody's glorified, everybody who follows him. And now I'll let you keep it. You had a question?
Yes, Prabhu, yes, that's right. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the... So my question is on the last point, Prabhu, identify the foundational role of the founder Acharya in the Vaishnava Sampradayas. I was thinking when you said, Prabhu, that Gaudiya Math was established and then within 6 or 8 years it imploded.
Well, it started actually, when the Gaudiya Math started?
9.
In effect, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta accepted sannyas from a picture of his Guru Maharaj in 1918, that was really the beginning of it. Where he got the vision that this is his mission. He's got to start manifesting now what his father insisted and what his Guru Maharaj, Srila Gorakishore Das Babaji. But yeah, in the 20s, this is where it really started to take off. 64 mutts, thousands of disciples. But your question now.
Yeah. So the question is, in Kali Yuga, this thing happens, the differences of opinion, and then as we progress further down the road, we expect more because Kali Yuga is going to get deteriorated. I wanted to know, but we also know, Prabhu, that Srila Prabhupada had a difference of opinion with his own god brothers, being followers of Gaudiya Matha. If you can enlighten for our guidance, how did Srila Prabhupada handled that situation where apparently there were difference of opinion between him and himself, his followers, and the Gaudiya Math followers, who happen to be his own god brothers. So this in principle will guide all of us on which path we should walk. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you for that very important question. I know we're going to visit that in lesson 8, called To Love is to Cooperate. That's in the Prayojana section of the series, where we deepen our love for Prabhupada. But I'll just give you a little short preview, I guess. And this is in the Nectar Devotion too. There are principles and there are details, right? So a principle is chant Hare Krishna. That's the Yuga Dharma for the age. That's the but the details vary how to apply that principle. And so when Prabhupada came to the West, the day before the first initiation, in September 66, it was Janmashtami in 26 Second Avenue, and he had the devotees stringing beads, They had to buy the beads at Tandy's bead shop down the street, and then they had to buy string, and then Prabhupada make a knot between each bead, and then make one bead be the Krishna bead. You won't chant on that. And then the next day was going to be initiation. And they didn't know what was going on, but they thought it was cool. Okay, initiation, far out. What's that all about? Because Prabhupada didn't stress. He mentioned the regulative principles, but he didn't stress them. Because he knew that his first followers were born and raised on the very activities we vow to avoid. Intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, and gambling. But he had full faith in the holy name and the power of prasadam to get his followers kind of addicted to chanting Hare Krishna and tasting Krishna prasad. And he was following Rupa Goswami's principle. Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna deveshayet sarve vidi nishedha syur eka etayore kinkaraha. Somehow or other, get them to be Krishna conscious. Chant Hare Krishna. Sarve vidhi. Vidhi, the Bengali say, vidhi. All the rules and regulations of Shastra should be made servants of this highest principle of somehow or other get them to chant Hare Krishna and be Krishna conscious. So he did that. And so anyway, on the day of initiation, or the day before actually, he said, so in my spiritual master's institution, the Gaudiya Math, many people were chanting 64 rounds a day. And that wasn't everybody. That was for the Math devotees, the devotees who weren't going out and preaching. Their tapas, their austerity was to chant 64 rounds because they weren't as out on the battlefield, preaching. For the preachers, it was 16, and for the householders who were taking care of family and job, like Prabhupada, he chanted 16 rounds. That was his quota. And how did he do that? Hari Shari said, how did you manage even 16 rounds with, you were trying to become a big pharmaceutical tycoon or businessman, and you had a growing family, and so how did you chant 16? Anybody know how Prabhupada did that?
4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon.
It was 4 when he rose, 4 before breakfast, 4 before midday meal, 4 before evening meal. So he wouldn't let himself eat unless he had chanted 4 rounds. 4, 4, 4, 4. Very good. How did you know that? Acha, yeah. So Prabhupada said, to the newcomers at the Lower East Side, New York City in 60. He said, so I think, my godbrothers chanted 64, but I think maybe, and so they were like gasping, like, what? 64? That would take all day, So, but I think you can chant 32. 32? That's, and so Prabhupada saw that still they were, dismayed. So then he said, all right, 16 rounds, minimum, rock bottom. Yeah. So that was it. And later on, Brahmananda asked, this is in a book called Swamiji by Satyaraj, my godbrother. So, so Brahmananda later on, he asked, Prabhupada, by the time they were calling him Prabhupada after May 68, so they said, Prabhupada, why you remember when you started 64, 32, and then you went down to 16? Why did you do that? And so Prabhupada just said, I was experimenting. I just wanted to see what you people could accept, could do, what was practical for you. So Prabhupada was empowered to know how to apply eternal principles just as suitable to, as he put it, time, country, candidate. 16 is the minimum. He would say to us, at least 16. There's no bar. But because Prabhupada his emphasis was on a very active preaching movement and doing, and not just sitting and doing nirjan bhajan, he prescribed for us 16. It's called the ISKCON sandwich, hearing in the morning, work during the day, hearing at night, and then it's a good balance, hearing, work, and hearing. Like in the Gita, Krishna told Arjuna, Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Think of me and fight. Yeah, so, but there's more to, there's sometimes those disagreements with the godbrothers, they came out in the open, big time. And I think I'll save that very dramatic, especially on 2 points. Why Prabhupada let men and women serve together in the same place, in the same yatras, in the same temple. And why he was letting us call him Prabhupada. That was another thing. They really didn't like that. So, but I'll save that. Yeah, there are differences. And then finally, at the end, Prabhupada's, because when Prabhupada was among us, even though he's Uttam Adhikari Mahabhagavat, he was acting as a preacher. He was acting as a madhyam, because on the madhyam level, you've got to make distinctions. You've got to avoid the envious, you've got to preach to the innocent, make friendships with the devotees, like that. What's the other one? I forget. 11th canto. Yeah. So anyway, he was acting as a madhyam adhikari, even though he was uttam. But in his last year, because as he was leaving us, he was in the mood of just total gratitude, no chastising, and he wanted to apologize to his godbrothers for things he said and wrote, very heavy things, the CC, and purports. So he told Bhakti True Maharaj, call my godbrothers, I want to apologize to them for things I said and did. And so they came, a lot of them came. And it was very, they came to Prabhupada's room, disappearance room in Krishna Balaram Mandir. And but he was so, his humility conquered them. This one devotee, I think it was Ashram Maharaj. No, there's no offense. No, you are a senior. You have the right to chastise us. You did what nobody did. Yeah, so it was very sweet at the end, and that. But to this day, there's just like ISKCON is not one monolithic. ISKCON is very different wherever you go in the world. So Gaudiya Math, there are still remnants. There's no organized Gaudiya Math, but there's still individual maths. And there are places in the Gaudiya Math where, we're not welcome because of what Prabhupada said and did. And there are other places that are very appreciative, like Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj's people, Devananda Saraswat Mat in Navdvip. Yeah. So we have to, so that's a natural question. How do we relate to the Gaudiya Math, or the remnants of the Gaudiya Math? Well, we relate to them. Whoever's friendly to us, we're friendly to them. And whoever's not friendly, we keep them at a respectful distance. What can you do? Even that's like that, even in our own yatras. I mean, we can't all, we're all different, right? We can't be close to everybody because we all have different natures. So even where I live in Tucson, Arizona, there are some devotees that I know I'll never be close to because we're just so different. It's not that one is more advanced than the other, it's just we have different natures. So, but we can all be respectful. Yeah. Otherwise, then you just become an aparadi and then you kill your spiritual life. Is that okay for now? Okay. So to be continued with that. Yes, Prabhu. Oop. Prabhu had his hand raised, but
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare
we have
Krishna
about
Prabhu.
15 minutes left.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It's a great opportunity for all of us in ISKCON Stowell to have your wonderful association with Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. And also, we know that you are closely associated with our Acharya, and you are observing how Srila Prabhupada used to chant.
Somebody's been telling you something.
So, I just wanted to know how Srila Prabhupada used to chant. One time, at least for 1 minute, if you can chant and show it.
Chant, chant, chant.
The way how he used to chant.
You ever hear that tape where Prabhupada saying chant, chant, and then the husband saying can't, can't, can't. Yeah. Well, Prabhupada would just, we have the japa tape.
I used to imitate.
Prabhupada japa tape, and we have japa. What is these tapes? There's one japa by example. That's a slower version, right? That's the one I like because I'm a slow chanter. That's why I'm driving everybody crazy because I'm always chanting my rounds. I have no time to do anything else, right? So so Prabhupada. Well, the only time I ever heard Prabhupada in person chant japa was when he initiated me, because he would take a strand of beads off the microphone stand, which you've probably seen pictures of, and then he would chant around. We got a lot of rounds done during initiation. So it was, you can all, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. In that japa tape, you will hear all 3 levels of japa. There's 3 levels. I learned from Bhakti True Maharaj. There's 3 kinds of japa. There's japa that's kind of, it's almost like you can't even hear it. It's like in the mind. Mana japa. Mana. You just see Prabhupada's lips moving, but you can't hear it. And then there's vachika, which means it's audible, but it's still soft. And then there's upangsu, loud. So sometimes in that japa tape, you hear Prabhupada really loud, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, And then sometimes it's like, Hare Krishna, it's just low. And then it's just practically like a whisper, or, I mean, you can't see him on the tape, so. Yeah, but what we're hearing when we hear, as I told the devotees last night on the way back, when I first heard Prabhupada chanting japa, I was stunned. I was in a van in Boston, and somebody turned on this japa tape, and I just hollered, "Who's that?" That's Srila Prabhupada. Oh, because we're hearing somebody chanting on the highest levels of Krishna Prem. I mean, that's real japa. Yeah, but Prabhupada wanted us to practice. He wanted us to hear our own japa, and he wanted us to come to that level. He wanted us to, there's different stages. There's offensive, and there's clearing, and then there's pure. So we will get there by, we're sadhana bhaktas, we're practicing sadhana bhakti, and we'll get there the more we actually chant our rounds. Numerical strength. The Goswamis, even the Goswamis, they were Manjari gopis, but still they were chanting a certain quota of rounds every day. Raghunath Das, and that was you can't imitate that. So, yeah, Prabhupada, not to be imitated. So I use the voice very selectively, because otherwise my godbrothers get in my case that you're imitating Prabhupada, what is this nonsense. But I just try to give people a Prabhupada experience, with the sound. It's my favorite voice. I'm hearing it every morning when I hear his audio. Okay, so you were a plant in the audience.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, sir.
Prodigy's fault. I got to get on her case again. Okay, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
we got
Prabhu.
9 minutes left.
Yes, so I'll make it quick. So the question is regarding the Siksha lineage that we have, so we see a predominant...
Regarding the what?
The Siksha lineage. I mean,
Siksha lineage,
we
yeah,
see a
the
predominance of
parampara.
the Siksha parampara right now, and the
Yes.
Siksha acharyas. Do you think, is that something that will continue in ISKCON in the future? Because, of course, Prabhupada will definitely be the predominant Siksha guru, but will we see more Siksha acharyas coming in our lineage in the future? Or do you think the dominance of initiating spiritual masters will be continuing in future?
You mean, do you think, what's your question?
So the question is that, do we see the entire Siksha parampara or lineage of Siksha acharyas or gurus continuing in ISKCON, especially...
Okay, well, I think I can answer with a story. In Prabhupada's last days, there was a couple of Bengali gentlemen who were old friends of Prabhupada. Ram Krishna Bajaj and Narayan, I think that was their names. Anyway, they were in the room with Prabhupada in the last weeks, and they requested that they wanted to speak with Prabhupada alone. So Prabhupada didn't want that. He always wanted somebody to be with him. But they were old friends, and Bhakti True was in the room. So, Swami. And so he said to Bhakti True Maharaj, he said, "It's okay, I know them, they're old friends." But before he left the room, Bhakti True Maharaj pressed the play button, or he pressed the record button, because he's Bengali too. He wanted to know what they were saying to him, saying to Prabhupada. So and then he came back afterwards when they left, and he played it, and what they were asking was, "After you, who? Is it going to all end with you? I mean, you're very, this is what usually happens. A charismatic leader comes along, and then he leaves, and everything falls apart. I mean, charisma doesn't even do Prabhupada justice. Empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what Prabhupada told them, what Bhakti True Maharaj heard was, "You will all do. Yare dako." Yeah. You will all do. You don't replace the founder Acharya, but you do. He wanted. What did last night I quoted? We need millions of gurus to take it to every town and village. You know, so we don't have to be on Prabhupada's level. Even we heard yesterday, you don't even have to be a liberated soul, but you have to be following strictly a liberated soul, and then your preaching will be effective. Purity is the force. So yeah, it'll go on, but there'll just be so many, hopefully thousands of branches. Prabhupada himself gave an example. When the devotees wrote the letter, he's the hero of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's right in the Gita, the disciplic succession page. And Prabhupada said, yes, Arjuna is in the disciplic succession, but it's not that you can't. Arjuna heard from Krishna directly, and we're hearing from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna said, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the same thing. And then he gave an example of a tree. This is a good example of how hopefully it'll go on in ISKCON. Say you have these nice big trees here. Canada is full of nice trees. We don't have such nice trees in Arizona. It's a desert. So you have these nice trees. Say you have a big old oak tree, a big spreading oak, and you have benches all over the place, right? So Prabhupada gave this example in a letter when they asked him. He said, so if you go to the oak tree and you take a leaf from one branch, and you take a leaf from another branch, and then you compare them, you see Prabhupada said, actually the word he used was taste. They have the same taste, the same characteristics. So connected to the root, Prabhupada, he's the founder of Acharya, is a branch of the Chaitanya tree, as he put it in CC. Then we'll all be reflecting him, manifesting the same mood, the same taste, the same siddhanta, the same emphasis, the same vitality. We're in an excellent position, actually, to take Krishna consciousness all over the world, even though it's only a branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, but because the founder of the branch is so empowered, we can take it all over the world, because he was empowered by Mahaprabhu to do that, to turn people outside Vedic culture into Vaishnavas, and even pure Vaishnavas. So, yeah. That we visit in lesson 3. The next one, yeah. Okay, it looks like we got 2 minutes left.
2 minutes. Hare Krishna. If nobody has a question, I have one. Anybody else? Hey, well, thank you. So, Prabhu, this is, I don't know whether it's a simple one or a tough one, but all of you disciples, direct disciples of Prabhupada, many a times, all of you disciples of Prabhupada, I said.
The first generation.
The first generation. Yes, exactly. The first generation.
I don't even say disciples. When I say initiates.
Initiates, okay. So.
Because sometimes they make us a cult. We're the chosen few. The 4,780 people, and you're so lucky, Prabhu, you had Prabhupada as your guru. But it's not like that. Prabhupada's for everybody. But anyway, go ahead.
All right.
You're going to hear that again and again in the seminar. Yes.
So we've heard many a times that all of you had very little association with Prabhupada.
Physical, it's right.
Very little.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, as you said, you've just heard Prabhupada chant while he was giving you the initiation or initiating you.
That was the only face-to-face exchange.
Exactly.
I gave him my beads.
And many other first generation disciples didn't even meet Prabhupada.
That's right, like Shivaram Maharaj, who joined in Montreal.
Right.
I don't think he ever even saw Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And look at what he's done,
Yeah, so exactly. All the first generation devotees are so devoted, and they took up to Krishna consciousness just by being under the guidance of Prabhupada. Probably not physical, but at least through his words. Many of us, we come every Sunday to the temple. We go to many temples, many festivals. Yet that spark of devotion is never there.
Well,
They
if you're going to the
understand.
festivals, I mean, there is a spark there. Come on.
No, what I meant is, why is there? I don't know. Many of us understand the philosophy. They understand Prabhupada. They understand the disciplic succession. They respect every first generation disciple of Prabhupada and all the other disciples. But yet, many of them are not able to pick up Krishna consciousness. Not even reach up to 16 rounds of chanting or follow the 4 regulative principles. What do you have to say about that, Prabhu?
Well, you might find that amongst even Prabhupada's initiated disciples who are still around. We're kind of like an endangered species, we're dropping like flies as we're older. But have you ever seen this book called Srila Prabhupada Tributes? Yes. Yeah. So that's a book that Jayadvaita Swami pioneered in 2010. He got some, I think, of his disciples together in England. They printed out of England, Prajumna Prabhu, out of Leicester, England. And since 2010, they've been publishing it. And, I mean, there's still about, out of the 4780 that took initiation from Prabhupada, you could even say 5,000, whatever. But only if, I think, in this year's book, maybe 200 or 300 people wrote a tribute. There's so many more people. And they're always saying, spread the word, tell everybody they can write an offering to Prabhupada. So this is the nature of Kali Yuga, especially in the material world. Everything turns to dissipate in time. That's one thing. The other thing is that when Prabhupada came, he was exploding. Hayagriva wrote a book called The Hare Krishna Explosion. So he was exploding a movement, And so he was deploying us all over the world, running around, doing things we never would have dreamed of doing or know we could do. But Prabhupada just said, you can do it, Krishna will help you. And so 108 temples, in 12 years, so many books, just farm communities, scientific branch, schools. So that's what happens when something explodes. But then what happens when everything settles down? Then you've got to make a real society out of it. You got to really start thinking Daiva Varnashram, which we didn't really have time. He said he didn't have time to do it. That was his one lamentation. He was so busy writing books and traveling, and he didn't have time to, show us how to make a Daiva Varnashram society. But the instructions are there in his Vani, in his books and letters and tapes. And so I don't think you should beat yourself up too much at all, even. I mean, I meet people who well, you say not even initiated, but I meet people who have already done, disciples of my godbrothers who have already done more than I'll ever do. They're so attached to Prabhupada. So it's just a matter of getting to know Prabhupada and getting inspired to do something nice for Prabhupada, because there's so much to do still. So it's a matter of getting inspired. So read the Lilamrita if you want to be inspired. Who here has read not the one volume Prabhupada book, but the full multi-volume Prabhupada Lilamrita? Has anybody read that? Okay. See? You got to read the book. You got to get to know Prabhupada. And that was I was part of the research team for that. And when Satsarup Maharaj was writing it, wow, what was coming out of his pen or his typewriter, you know, was empowered writing. He was really empowered by Prabhupada to write that. And we conducted hundreds of interviews with devotees. I mean, get to know Prabhupada and you will be so inspired. He's more inspiring, he's the most inspiring because he's the real servant leader. He did more for us than we could ever do for him. Yeah. So, yeah, don't get too hard on yourself or on others. Yeah. I could sort of sense people squirming when you were asking a question. Is he talking about me, you know? I'm a good devotee, you know. I mean, a little guilt is a good thing, but when you get too guilty, then you empower yourself, right? Okay. As Prabhupada would say, I'm an old man, I could pass away at any time. I have to leave you now, I have to go back. After last night, I got back so late, I'm not going to do these late nights anymore. So I'm just going to leave you and let you have a nice rest of your Sunday program. But thanks for inviting me, and I hope you can catch the rest of the lessons online at the Toronto YouTube YouTube
Thank you.
channel. ISKCON Toronto. Just Google it. You'll be in. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. His Grace Suresvara